Hi everyone. I just want to share an interesting interaction I discovered involving Strength of Blood, Immortal Ambition, and Instant Leech. I went into a lot of detail about Strength of Blood and Immortal Ambition in my hour-long Leech deep dive video, but there have been some new developments since then. Let me start by summarizing how these mechanics work individually. Strength of Blood effectively turns your Leech into damage reduction instead of recovery. To do this, it takes your total life recovery per second from Leech value and makes it grant less damage taken instead of actually recovering life. However, by default, Strength of Blood is only useful after you've taken damage. All instances of Life Leech are removed when you fill your unreserved life, which means that Strength of Blood grants no damage reduction at full life. To overcome this, you need some form of persistent leech, or overleech as many call it. This means either getting a modifier that makes it so that Life Leech effects are not removed when unreserved life is filled, or using Petrified Blood to make sure you never actually fill your unreserved life in the first place. This is where Immortal Ambition comes in, as it prevents Life Leech from being removed when unreserved life is filled. Immortal Ambition also makes it so that while you are at full life, your Life Leech will recover Energy Shield instead of life. Note that in this case it uses the phrase full life and not unreserved life. This means Immortal Ambition's Energy Shield recovery over time will not work if you reserve some of your life, but you will still benefit from the persistent leech. This will be important later. So, how do Strength of Blood and Immortal Ambition interact? Understanding this interaction requires knowing the distinction between recovery from Life Leech and life recovery from Leech. You can watch my Leech video to get the thorough breakdown, but what you need to know is that Strength of Blood does not technically care about how much recovery you're getting from Life Leech, but rather how much life recovery you're getting from Leech. This is important in the case where your Life Leech recovers a resource other than life. For Strength of Blood to work, your Leech needs to give life recovery over time. Why does this matter here? Well, Immortal Ambition is the only mechanic in the game that can make Leech recover a different resource than its default resource. Strength of Blood actually doesn't prevent Immortal Ambition from recovering Energy Shield, as Strength of Blood only prevents life recovery, not Energy Shield recovery. However, while Immortal Ambition is making you recover Energy Shield and not life, your life recovery per second from Leech is 0, and this is what Strength of Blood scales from. Thus, if you use Immortal Ambition for Persistent Leech to enable Strength of Blood, you won't have any damage reduction from Strength of Blood while you're at full life. Not because you're not leeching, but because you're leeching the wrong resource. As I noted in my Leech video, there is one way around this issue, and that's to reserve any amount of your life, making you unable to reach full life and thereby preventing Immortal Ambition from ever switching life recovery to Energy Shield recovery. You will still benefit from Immortal Ambition's Persistent Leech effect, and your Leech will never switch to recovering Energy Shield, which means Strength of Blood's damage reduction doesn't get disabled. The downside of reserving life is that you can't use Leech to recover Energy Shield, but that downside is typically negligible given how slow that recovery would be, and given that you can't use Leech to top off your life to begin with. Okay, but all that stuff I just said was already explained in the Leech video, so what's changed? First of all, at some point in the middle of Expedition League, the patch 3.15.3 notes had this one little line in there regarding Strength of Blood. I imagine most people overlooked this change because they didn't consider Strength of Blood or Instant Leech to be relevant in 2021. That, or as soon as they realized the devs weren't reverting all of the patch 3.15 nerfs, they immediately closed the patch notes and resumed complaining on Reddit. This patch note clarified that Strength of Blood doesn't actually prevent recovery from Instant Leech. This means that if you have Strength of Blood, you can still get recovery from Leech as long as it's instant. However, if your Leech is instant, then your life recovery per second from Leech is 0, and Strength of Blood gives no damage reduction, defeating the purpose of using Strength of Blood in the first place. Okay, so why is this patch note relevant then? Well, it's possible to get both Instant Leech and non-Instant Leech. The only non-legacy way to get Instant Leech right now is with the Bloodseeker unique claw, which makes Life Leech from hits with that weapon instant. If you can do damage with Bloodseeker and without Bloodseeker, then some of your Leech will be instant and some will be non-instant. This allows you to benefit from Strength of Blood's damage reduction while still being able to recover life from Leech. All of that is what inspired my current character. I just finished the story, and while testing the Leech mechanics in Blood Aqueduct, I made an unexpected discovery. I said earlier that if you have Immortal Ambition and reserve some life, your Life Leech will not be able to recover Energy Shield. It turns out that's only partially true. Specifically, it's only true for non-instant Leech. Non-instant Life Leech only recovers Energy Shield while at true full life, but instant Life Leech will recover Energy Shield anytime your unreserved life is full. In case you're not aware, Instant Leech with Immortal Ambition can instantly recover Energy Shield while you're on full life. It turns out that this interaction works even if you reserve some of your life. I don't expect you to have completely followed along so far, so I'm going to try and demonstrate all the stuff I just monologued about. Let's start with just Strength of Blood. No Immortal Ambition, no Life Reservation, no Instant Leech. To demonstrate how much damage I take normally, I'll cast Forbidden Rite, which, given my negative 40% chaos resistance, should deal around 1700 damage to me. Sure enough, my life went from 3000 to 1300. Because Strength of Blood prevents my Life Leech from actually recovering life, you'll notice that the transparent portion of my life globe appears as though I'm recovering life, but the recovery continually fails. However, while I'm leeching, I'm getting damage reduction from Strength of Blood, based on how much recovery per second my leech would have given me. In this next clip, I'm not at full life anymore. I hit enemies to gain leech instances and then immediately cast Forbidden Rite, taking only 1200 damage instead of 1700, an amount consistent with the 29% less damage taken that I should be getting from Strength of Blood currently. However, as you can see here, because leech instances are removed when unreserved life is filled, the damage reduction does not work while I'm at full life. This is one of the problems that needs to be solved on any Strength of Blood build. Now let's pivot and talk about Immortal Ambition on its own, without Strength of Blood, without reserving life, and without any Instant Leech. When my life is full, you can see that my Life Leech is applying to my Energy Shield instead of my life, though it's very weak thanks to the Energy Shield Leech Cap and the Perpetual Drain from Immortal Ambition itself. If I then reserve a small amount of life, you'll notice that my Leech never actually goes to my Energy Shield. This is because Immortal Ambition only switches to Energy Shield recovery when I'm at true full life, not full unreserved life. However, I'm still getting the Persistent Leech because that deals with unreserved life. Now let's remove the life reservation and allow me to reach full life again. Watch what happens when I equip a Bloodseeker in one of my weapon slots. While I'm at full life, both the Instant Leech from Bloodseeker and the non-Instant Leech from my other weapon will recover Energy Shield instead of life. Additionally, notice that the Instant Leech immediately tops off my Energy Shield. This is because the amount of leech per instance is capped at 10% of maximum life, even though it's recovering Energy Shield. Okay, so here's the part that I didn't expect. Notice now that if I reserve some life, the non-instant leech never switches to recovering Energy Shield, which is expected and consistent with the example before last. However, the instant leech actually does switch to recovering Energy Shield, even though I'm not at full life. In other words, if you're playing an Instant Leech Immortal Ambition build, you can reserve some life and still be able to instantly recover your Energy Shield. This is not consistent with the way the keystone is worded, so it's a nice bonus for this build, as I can scale some Energy Shield and not waste it. Now let's put Strength of Blood and Immortal Ambition together, starting again without Life Reservation and without Instant Leech. Here's what I imagine would be a common pitfall for players trying to build around Strength of Blood and using Immortal Ambition for Persistent Leech. Notice that when I'm at full life, even though I'm still leeching thanks to Immortal Ambition, I still don't get any damage reduction from Strength of Blood. The Forbidden Rite still deals the full 1700 damage to me. This is because the Life Leech is recovering Energy Shield instead of life, and Strength of Blood's damage reduction is based on life recovery per second, not Energy Shield recovery per second. Now watch what happens when I reserve some life. Now, when at full unreserved life, the Forbidden Rite cast deals less damage to me, meaning Strength of Blood is granting damage reduction here. This is because preventing my life from being full prevents Immortal Ambition from recovering Energy Shield instead of life. Finally, let's put it all together. Strength of Blood, Immortal Ambition, some reserved life, and a combination of instant and non-instant leech. This lets me get the best of both worlds. Just like in the previous case, my non-instant leech is persistent, and it never switches to Energy Shield recovery because my life is never full. Although the non-instant leech never actually recovers life, Strength of Blood constantly gives damage reduction, and I can still get recovery because Strength of Blood does not prevent instant leech. My Instant Leech recovers life when my unreserved life is not full, and recovers Energy Shield when my unreserved life is full, allowing me to scale both life and Energy Shield to increase my HP. This is the concept that I'm trying to build this character around. It's very much a work in progress, but I'm excited to test its limits now that I know that it all functions this way. The main downside here is that I have to build around Bloodseeker, which is offensively a pretty mediocre weapon. I think I can still get the damage to a decent level while being pretty tanky. I estimate I can get Strength of Blood's less damage taken modifier over 60%, which will hopefully be enough with Instant Leech and some other defensive layers sprinkled in. Now that I know I can actually use Energy Shield on this build, that makes it easier to hit decent levels of HP, for example through the Life as Extra Energy Shield body armor craft. That's about all I have for today. I'm still quite curious how all of these leech gimmicks interact with the new Vampiric Link skill. Given the unexpected behavior seen here with Immortal Ambition and Instant Leech, I wouldn't be shocked if Vampiric Link has some weird interactions with Instant Leech and or Strength of Blood. Maybe I'll try to do some testing with a friend and make a follow-up video to this. I can also share my progress with this character once it's fully operational if there's any interest in that. Other than that, my league start's been going alright. I'm enjoying most of the changes, and I have a lot of new ideas to test out. I started the league with a Flame Blast Trickster, which I've leveled to 90 and done some red maps with. It's reasonably tanky with good clear speed, but the single target may never be satisfying enough. Overall, I can see how the character will play in the end, so I don't feel the need to keep optimizing it. I also have a two-person party I've theory-crafted, involving Wintertide Brand and Eye of Malice, but the friend I'm doing that with and I are still in Act 8. I don't have a ton of time to play and make videos, but I'll be playing a lot throughout this league as I go for 36 challenges and test out weird ideas. Thanks for watching.